Meanwhile, the US is further restricting the export of NVIDIA chips to China, hoping this will further slow them down. So as Elon is throwing pot shots at Sam Altman and this $500 billion data center, China's saying, hold my beer, buddy, dropping models that cost $5 million to do the equivalent of what the US is spending $150 million on. And the race for AI agents that can actually do things in the real world has been kicked into overdrive. And it is not just DeepSeek, it is TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, as well. And by the way, their agentic AI is better too. So let's dive into that, starting with Operator. So ChatGPT's Operator is only available to the Pro tier, which is $200 a month. And so rather cost prohibitive for a bunch of people. Now in this, as I mentioned, China has absolutely been freaking crushing it, right? Like if you look at the price performance ratio of a DeepSeek V3, we're getting performance that's better than Claude 3.5 Sonnet, right? This vertical axis. And then the cost is like very, very close to GPT-4o Mini. It's even cheaper than Llama, right? Or Qwen, one of the other Chinese models that's out there. So are really, really insane to be hitting this sort of like triangle of optimal price performance ratio that China is going after. And this makes sense, right? Because of course, they are being drastically restricted from taking advantage of all these NVIDIA GPUs. We have compute in spades here in the US, and so they need to be compute poor. And let me just say, constraints breed creativity. Now, not only is that wild, it's actually really, really even wilder that basically DeepSeek-R1, which is their equivalent of an O1 style model, actually shows you the detailed chain of thought. Now, of course, OpenAI folks are saying, oh, well, not all chain of thought is made the same way. But I think this is really, really funny, right? That OpenAI is like, we're not going to show you the internal reasoning because of safety and competitive concerns. And oh my God, going a step further and saying that prompts that try to access the hidden chain of thought are monitored and users may face warnings and loss of access that violate this policy. Absolutely absurd. So as Mark Andreessen eloquently put it, we are living in a timeline where a Chinese company is keeping the original mission of OpenAI alive, truly open frontier research that empowers all. And that is indeed very wild. And in a quick response to this, Sam Altman announced that the free tier of ChatGPT is going to get O3 Mini for free. Makes a ton of sense. And let me tell you, they should absolutely be worried because guess who is climbing up the productivity iOS app charts? It's DeepSeek. Hilarious to me that, again, a Chinese company is crushing it and is actually the one that's giving us an open source model here too. Absolutely wild. It's so funny. Going back to what Jim Fan is saying, DeepSeek-R1 not only open sources a barrage of models, but also spills all the training secrets. That is exactly what OpenAI set out to do. And then as a bunch of emails revealed, including emails with Ilya Sutskever, that they decided that at some point when this technology becomes too powerful, we will no longer publish the science behind it, only the product. The Chinese say, screw that. We're going to be the open source epicenter and lean into the open internet and have people even in the US and Europe building around their models. So if you're referencing AI in terms of Chinese models, that is something that AI companies should be worried about. It is thus no surprise that tech CEOs are sounding the alarm on ByteDance.
That rivals OpenAI's O1 on several third-party performance benchmarks. But those two have something else besides performance in common that makes it starkly different than our American ones, and that is cost. They were many times cheaper to build and are many times cheaper to access. So developers are really interested in these models. Big American players, too, at Davos are taking note.
We should take the development out of China very, very seriously.
What we found is that DeepSeek, which is the leading Chinese AI lab, their model is actually the top performing or roughly on par with the best American models.
If the United States can't lead in this technology, we're going to be in a very bad place geopolitically.
Each of them extremely influential CEOs working in AI.
I just find this deeply amusing, to be honest. But again, I am just in awe of what China is doing, right? Like, I don't know how much compute went into training this specific model. But what is clear is if the US thinks that the only way to stop China is to restrict their supply of GPUs, well, clearly they are sorely mistaken. We need to come up with real innovative techniques to take advantage of the compute that is at our disposal, because otherwise China's just going to find ways around it, whether it's algorithmic or architectural breakthroughs to basically deal with the fact that they're quote unquote compute poor. Well, turns out that you actually are a lot more innovative if you have these constraints bestowed upon you. So now, of course, OpenAI started building out its robotics team, but this is also a place where China has a huge advantage. So this is real video that you're seeing of deep robotics, right? Like, absolutely wild what they're doing. And so China's robotic prowess is absolutely insane. I could make a whole video just on like DJI and the drone industry, but you probably already know that. But even when it comes to these like other robotic form factors, they're crushing it. Now, of course, you can imagine doing a bunch of delightful stuff with this, like a bunch of people's running around on a $1,200 robot dog. And what's cool is they're not just reverse engineering what the US teams are doing, they're finding new approaches, right? So like instead of doing something like Monte Carlo tree search, just linearize the thought and do good old fashioned autoregressive prediction. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's just wild. So by the way, if you want to go deeper into what NVIDIA is doing with physical AI, robotics, and so forth, be sure to check that out. But I want to just wrap this up by saying that they are crushing it. I mean, I haven't seen such a natural walking demo from any US company thus far. So wild times ahead. Now, in the backdrop of all of this is the escalating tension with China. In many ways, the fate of the US and China is inextricably linked, right? Like the supply chain dependency, all of that stuff is just very clear. At the same time, we've seen what happened with TikTok. It nearly got banned, and then at the very last minute, Trump's like, oh, TikTok's back. Now let's see what comes out of like this 50-50 sale, like 50% to the US or whatever. So China is clearly a force to be reckoned with. And I think the US labs can't just say that China is like blindly copying. They're not innovating. They are clearly innovating across a bunch of different dimensions while leaning into their strengths where possible. I could make a whole video talking about why AI video models on the China side are just so good compared to something like a Runway or Luma. We are going to see a lot more agentic products hitting the scene this year, and I'll be there covering it all for you. So if you enjoy this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this, and if you enjoy stuff like this, consider checking out spatialintelligence.ai, where I send these sort of updates neatly to your inbox. Thanks, Bilal signing off, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Cheers.